How are you?
Good
Doing
morning, Albert.
excellent. Doing excellent. Although there's a little bit of rain, I'm feeling good. It's always good to be here on the Morning Buzz with you all. So let's jump right in because I know there's a lot of people out there getting their workout in, sipping their coffee, and trying to get to work. I bet it's bumper to bumper. So here's what you all can expect from today. We're going to kick it off with what has been a pretty heated debate between open source and closed source, but we're actually going to lean in on open source today and how it's disrupting the traditional markets. There's been a lot of news around it. We're going to get back to AI agents. It's a hot topic. We've been getting a ton of DMs and comments about agents and what is going on with the autonomous framework that they're working with. Then we'll jump into some costs, some AI costs. That's a hot topic as well, as everything is getting doged nowadays. And then finally, we just saw it hot off the press. Microsoft and some others jumping into the healthcare landscape. And I know there's a lot of physicians and doctors out there, nurses that are really excited about that. The time has finally come. So, Nick, Jason, why don't we start with the open source side? I know that's a hot topic. Let's start there.
Sure. Yeah. So another model was released open source. So Alibaba out of China released their new model, which is also open source. Gronk is working on open sourcing them. So there's really starting to become a divide of do we have a closed source models or do we have open source models? And it seems like the more is going to open source, making it easier to consume, reducing your capital expenditure of being able to utilize these models. So I think there is a paradigm shift that is happening.
It's truly a beautiful new culture. It's not new. It's a culture that was established back in the sort of
Early
the
internet
Linux,
days.
yeah,
Yeah.
Linux days of Linux and Red Hat, and Red Hat was probably the very first. Red Hat's the granddaddy of open source. Let's put it that way, okay? And they really started. It's more of a grassroots movement, right? And now, we've it's been around for so long that the commercialization of open source has really become not only an art but a methodology, right? So don't think that these people are just putting their stuff out there out of the kindness of their heart. I think it's amazing that they're enabling and reducing the or lowering the barrier to entry for AI, and they're spending all the money initially up front and open sourcing these models. But there's definitely a commercial model out there.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Red Hat, they've got their commercial model. All of these packages and different applications do have a commercialized model. A lot of it goes around supportability, and that's where they'll be able to get a lot more revenue income coming from that.
Especially, I know we're going to go into agentics next, but like Crew AI is amazing.
Great, great
Agno is a framework that we use. All of them are open source, but they're making a lot of money.
So I was
But
going to
that's
touch on that. I was going to touch
yeah,
on that because a lot of people out there when they create the delineation between open source and closed, they say, well, closed is going to be more profitable. Open, maybe not. It's a race to the bottom. But then we saw DeepSeek come out. It was like 545% of profit or cost profit or whatever, however they lay that out. But they're making a ton of money. I mean, millions of dollars. Now, again, you know how I feel about this. I'm not too sure how much I want to believe in it. That being said, I mean, if it's even close, if it's even a fraction, right, they're making hand over the fist. And so those that are playing in the open source, yeah, it's there's a lot of money to be made, and I love that it also creates this competitive, innovative, healthy competition out there. I don't know what if you guys saw that come out from DeepSeek, but whoa, it's another news flash for DeepSeek in the open source
Yeah,
market.
so DeepSeek's releasing their R2 model very soon. We haven't talked about the release that came out Friday night with
the file
GPT
system.
4.5,
Oh, 4.5, yeah.
That's right.
Well,
which has gotten, I don't even want to call it mixed reviews. It's gotten negative reviews from
Yeah.
everyone that I've seen that's used it. It's not really smarter than 4.0. It's not
Right.
really.
and Claude 3.7, Sonnet 3.7 is getting similar bad hype. Um, I'm not saying that we're hitting a plateau. I'm saying perhaps we're hitting an area maybe where we don't understand how to use these newer models, and our old prompting tactics don't necessarily work on the newer ones.
Yeah, I think that's probably where it is, once you have PhD level responses, how do you incrementally improve? Is it just managing people's expectations that these will be small incremental changes because the big drastic changes have already happened all of last year?
Yeah, and speaking of DeepSeek, what was it? A few days ago, they released a new file system,
Right.
and they're boasting about 7 terabytes a second. So they've created a new filing system for the nerds out there. There's something called NTFS, isn't it? I think new. What do you know what it stands for? New something filing system. It was basically a Microsoft filing system, and we've been on NTFS for God even knows how
Yeah,
long,
since the
right?
90s.
Yeah, since the 90s. Mac has their own file system.
Hmm.
In the early days, we started off with FAT32. That was back in like early 90s. But they came out with a new filing system, which once again, and I'm saying this because they've open sourced it. And now we have speed to retrieval of data that's stored on disk at speeds we've never seen in the past. Which,
I love it.
once again, open source.
I'm looking at
Open
the
source, as well as constraints. They have constraints, so they've been able to be innovative. Gronk put imposed constraints of just time, of we want it out faster. So you see a lot of great innovation when people have constraints to work around.
I love
Yeah.
it.
I'm looking at the comments right now. We got Dr. Donnie Went in the house on LinkedIn. We're streaming on all our different platforms like LinkedIn, X, YouTube, and some others, Facebook. But Dr. Donnie's on LinkedIn, and here we go. New technology file system, and he
Thank
says
you.
he remembers the battles that he had to get companies to embrace open source Linux back in 2000s. That's so funny. Oh, open source. All right, well, let's switch gears because the hot topic too right now, or at least a popular topic, is this autonomous digital species, the AI agents. They are here. They're alive. What's going on there? What do people need to know about
Isn't that
what
the top
AI agents are
buzzword of
doing?
2025 is AI
It
agents?
is. It is. And it's a buzzword, but as we know, because we're in it, and I'd love to hear from both of you, right? They're here now. We're using them. You all want to talk about, what are the benefits of it? What do they do, right? And how can human tasks transition to AI agent tasks for those that are decision makers out there in their enterprises?
You want to start?
No, go for it.
All right, so yeah, agents have really transformed how people have been operating within 2025, and they are great because they can be focused on a single task. You can set a intent, provide it some guidance and guardrails, and it will go and perform that task over and over again 24/7. So if you need a agent that's there for HR and it's being able to review resumes, it can evaluate your criteria, and it will go through every single resume that comes through, and it can be used for many different topics. We're just starting to scratch the surface of it. We've got a capability called Lucidus that is a multi-agent swarm where we can go into. You want to talk
No,
about?
yeah, I'd love to. Quickly before I get into Lucidus, we spoke about this at the Kellogg event that we were live streaming at. When I was on the panel, we talked about agents, and really, I want to define it because it's really confusing because I feel like everybody and their mom knows about agents now, and somebody has some sort of like fancy infographic to post about it. I'm not making fun. I'm just saying. I just feel like there's a lot of noise. So really, back in the day, we had like Zapier. Those are
Mhm.
workflows. Those are called deterministic workflows because you can determine the exact route and path
Right.
the workflow will take based on how you set up the little blocks and how you connected the blocks, right?
If this,
Now,
then that. Yeah.
exactly, yeah. And that's been around for a long time. I mean, frankly, it's called RPA, or robotics process automation, is a more advanced version of Zapier.
Mhm.
But now we have something called opportunistic.
Mm.
These agents are more opportunistic, meaning you can give them a task that you didn't previously tell them you were going to give it, and it makes a decision based on the tools that it has available to it to make the right call. Now there are some risks in that because you're trusting the model to make the right decision. It all comes down to how you prompt it, right?
Mhm.
So there's definitely a lot of risk when it comes down to like doing it yourself, there's a lot of ways you can easily mess it up. That's why we always, ask that you come to us, and if you need help, we'd love to help you out.
Yeah, the definition of your prompts is more than the one liner that you may interact
Right.
with your Gen AI. It's a
Yeah.
Yeah.
multi-step.
Good call out.
Yeah, yeah. So there's a lot of risk when it comes down to these AI agents if you don't exactly know how they're going to handle your requests. And for those of you in the military out there, I like OODA Loop. I don't know if you've heard of OODA Loop. It's observe, orient, decide, and act. And
Mm.
so I would like to say that the chatbots of the past were more of like observe and orient. The agents of the future are do observe, orient, decide, and act. So it's a nice little acronym to remember it by.
Is that a secondary? That's a secondary framework for those war fighters out there, right? We have the AI
Yeah,
AMF, and now we have the secondary framework, OODA loop. I
yeah.
like it.
When we touch down, we're in unknown environments. So that's the framework we follow. We observe, we orient ourselves, we decide, and
It's
we
awesome.
make we act upon a decision. Yeah.
Well, for the
So,
for the
but same
audience
thing happens. It's funny. It applies.
for the
Go ahead.
audience out there, Nick and Jace, speaking of agents, right? And I know we wanted to bring up Lucidus too. Can we give some real case studies out there on where companies, where organizations and business owners can actually start applying right now? If they're using, something like N8N or some others, right? Agent.ai or some others make, what could they use it for right now?
A lot of things. I mean,
Yeah,
simple things like email,
I
right?
mean, let's talk about how we use it within the AI executive.
Love it. Yes.
We have an
Yeah.
agent that goes out and scours the web for the top stories, and that's what helps define what our agenda is every day.
Yeah.
So we have an agent that goes, scours the internet, generates an email, puts it into our format that we like to collaborate on, and then we can go and start these topics. So this is a great way, easy way, where you're just searching the top internet stories and you have an agent that provides you a daily brief every morning.
Yeah.
What I love about that too is we all have families, right? And I know there's a lot of people out there that have families, and we're always looking for ways to create some harmony, right? Some balance. And that's what I love about this particular case study with an agent is we don't have to go do it, right? We can go spend time. I don't want to, worry about researching while thinking about, shoot, I want to get at the dinner table with the kiddos and my wife. And, so we can break it down to just the norms, right? The
And
norms that we
that's
do every
that's
day.
the thing with as you start defining your agents, it doesn't have to be a job that's going to take you 12 hours.
Right.
Just searching the internet, finding the hot topics, that could take maybe 30 minutes, and then creating it in a form that may be another 10 or 15 minutes. That saves us time over time, where it's going to be very impactful. But it doesn't have, when you're evaluating what agents to start with, you don't always have to go for the biggest, most impactful. Find something that's going to save you a few hours.
And
Right.
always start where the cost of a mistake is low. That's what we always like. That's where we start, right? We want to make sure that we are not only incrementing on the size of the process, but also the risk of the process. The riskier the process, the more we want to wait to deploy on that process. We'll start somewhere where it's a smaller process, it's well defined, and the cost of making a mistake in that process is low. And he brought up a good point about starting small. There's that book, Atomic Habits. I think that's a
Oh,
great book
yeah.
you can apply, right, to how you think about agents. If you can just automate little by little, you'll see incremental savings over time.
Right. And that will start defining your systems, and that's how you operate. So,
Yeah, and then quickly on Lucidus, I mean, we built this super AI. It started off as a data cleaner. We were optimizing human documents for consumption by AI and AI models, and then it turned into like this super agentic team that we were able to deploy. I mean, we're processing over 400,000 vital records for a major county, like birth certificate, death certificates, marriage certificates, between the 1930s and 50s, and we are down to a sub 5 seconds extraction of that data.
Wow.
Imagine it would take for that 400,000, I think, and Albert, you did the math on this.
Yeah, I think I've done a couple talks out there about pitching your C-suite around AI, right? Investing in AI. And the biggest thing that you want to do is understand the cost and ROI. And in this particular case study, what we found is that task to do 400,000 documents would take about 42 weeks. And with a team of 20 making, I think we said $20 an hour, don't quote me on it, but it was around 650K. And when we introduced Lucidus to it, we saved the organization about 600K. And again, it doesn't have the barriers of time. It's 24/7, right? And the cost is significantly lower. And so for any organizations out there that are looking to save money, that's a great case study. I know we're going to get into the healthcare space right now, but that's another one aside from the municipalities and government entities. Healthcare I think is so prime for tools like Lucidus for sure.
Yeah, there is a use case we're working on filling out these EHRs. That is the last thing a nurse wants to do is fill out the electronic health record of a patient.
Right.
So we're using secure transcription services to transcribe the visit. This is more home health, and when the nurse visits, they turn on a transcription device. Once again, it's fully HIPAA compliant and secure.
Right.
And then Lucidus actually fills in the EHR, it fills out the whole thing. And then now the human is not spending time hand jamming away notes from the visit. Rather, they're playing QA or quality assurance, right? So
Exactly. I have a recent case study on that, Nick, and actually through White Glove and Lucidus. And you're right, there's soap notes, right? So for those that are physicians or out there in like the psychotherapy space and all of that, your soap notes are so important because not just to protect the patient, but in order for you to get that reimbursement from the insurance carrier, it has to be perfect. So to your point, if you transcribe, right, so long that it's HIPAA compliant, which that's very easy to do, and then you have it go into whatever type of agentic workflow, or even a GPT using chat. I mean, it's that simple to format it all so that it's compliant to the insurance carrier's recommendations or requirements. And then you shoot that up. You even automate that financial process and your revenue cycles it's right size, right? A lot of healthcare providers, unfortunately, why it's such a big deal with these insurance carriers is they're actually paying costs far more in advance, and they're waiting 60 days to recoup their revenue, right? Their reimbursements. And that's a tough business to play in. And I know a lot of physicians, actually, one of my best friends, he's an orthopedic surgeon. And it's one of those things like, I don't know if I want to start a practice because I'm just constantly chasing revenue and I'm paying out of the, what, right? Sorry. I don't know if there's any younger people watching this, but paying out of the ass, right? So, yeah, it's an interesting one. Jay, sorry to cut you off. I know you're going to jump in.
No, I think that's an example of where using these agents are very time consuming. It really, those are the types of processes you want to start with. That's where you're starting small, focus on something that takes up a lot of your time, that's error prone, that's going to potentially cause issues. And that's where you want to really spend some time in investing on being able to automate that.
Well, I just put it in the chat. Jason, you sent me a great article. It was actually a report that IBM put together. It was like 48 pages or something like that. And exactly what you're saying. And it was titled, What Sets AI Transformation Leaders Apart? And it was those incremental improvements, right? It's not racing to do AI everything. That's a recipe for disaster, right? Are you focusing on efficiency and productivity, right? And then are you creating an innovative culture where you have a great feedback loop? And a lot of the things that I saw from IBM, or even last week we were talking about PwC or Deloitte, right? A lot of our framework in the AI AMF actually highlights these key areas. And again, just a testament to both of you and those that did the research, Dr. Donnie Went and some others that put their eyeballs on our framework. And we feel really good about it. It's super sound. And a lot of companies are joining us because of that. They know that we're going to do it the right way. All right. So
absolutely, I always do it right the first time, right?
yeah, definitely. So let's switch gears, right? I spoke of healthcare, and I know AI. I saw Microsoft. Y'all know how I feel about Microsoft. I'm a big, and by the way, I'm not invested in Microsoft. If anyone was wondering, I just like them a lot. I like the ecosystem, and I like what they're up to. But they're jumping in as well. I saw Mustafa Soliman post something on LinkedIn if y'all didn't catch it, but they're jumping into healthcare, and I just think it's for the taking. We had a great conversation with Miss Bindu out at the Kellogg event, and she's probably watching. But she too understands just how hot this space is. It's bound for efficiency and productivity. What are your all thoughts around the healthcare landscape?
I think we spoke about it at the Kellogg event multiple times. It is an industry that is ripe for disruption. There has not been a lot of innovation over the past 20, 30 years. And
Right.
so they really need to be able, everything's manual. All the doctor's notes are all written manual and then transcribed. So there are a lot of opportunities where AI can help. The biggest thing is that HIPAA compliance and being able to do that and ensure that you're not getting those HIPAA fines. So you've got to really take the time, do it right, and be able to design your solutions so that they are effective and they will follow the regulations.
Right.
I think there's a ton of inefficiencies. Like my mom's been a nurse for longer than I've been alive, and a majority of the time was spent in the ICU. And she would tell me about how they were doctors would accidentally swap patient charts because back in the day the charts were kept at the foot of the bed in like a little holder, and sometimes they would mistakenly swap the charts, and then the wrong medication would be administered to the wrong patient, or the wrong treatments, right? So there's a lot of inefficiency purely because the volume and scale at which hospitals operate, they're very much revenue driven. So I think they're incentivized incorrectly, and that's a whole nother topic that we can get into. But I think that the point I'm trying to make here is that AI can really help reduce a lot of those errors that happen on the floor, on the fly, right? Imagine nurses being able to have their own assistant right in their ear, right? Perhaps it's in a bone induction headphone, and they're running around. They're doing their job, but they have a virtual assistant plugged in, and that virtual assistant serves as sort of this fabric that unites all of the staff that are on the floor, right? And doing the jobs and handling a lot of the same patients. Imagine being able to query, what this patient's medication requirements are, etc. Yeah. So I think
I think that's a great thing. And the CEO of NVIDIA wrote a op-ed, I believe it was last Thursday or Friday,
Yeah.
where he said the best thing for every single person is to use AI as a tutor. And that example of like, what is the right medication for this? That's a tutor. I actually spent some time with my mother this weekend. She was like, I'm afraid of AI. I'm like, number one, there's no reason to be afraid of AI. It's going to just give you answers. It's not going to take over your system. So any question that you're going to ask me technically of like how to set up your Nest or this issue is happening with my refrigerator, go ahead and ask AI first. Use it as a tutor, use it as an assistant that's helping you, and then you'll start getting more comfortable with doing more things. But I think that's one of the first steps that everyone should think of is let's start utilizing these AI systems as a tutor to help us through the process. I know Nick and I always talk about, hey, do you remember how to do that? He's like, just ask the AI.
And something simple, like a tidbit to take away is when you discharge a patient, you give them all this paperwork, and it's very rare that they actually read it, okay?
Yeah,
So
never.
instead of giving them the papers, I would say that a simple adjustment and a simple innovation that can be done is give them a link to a chatbot that's trained purely on their discharge paperwork, right?
Right.
And now they can ask questions. Now you can give them the paperwork as well, but at least they have a chatbot, because a lot of the times that stuff is just hard to read, and you have varying levels of education.
Mhm.
You have really long, complex terms in that paperwork, and people just don't understand. So I think there's a lot of little, like we were talking about earlier. Start where the cost of mistake is small. start where the process is small. Those little increments can really make a big difference.
Yeah. Let me just add this too, because I know there are physicians and even the C-suite executives that are responsible for some of our hospitals here locally too in Texas. And I just want to challenge you all that this needs to happen, right? I think the patient experience, and I know net promoter scores or satisfaction scores are a heavy metric for those in the medical world, the healthcare space. And the fact that many are not investing in AI right now is going to be a huge drainer for you. Many of these hospitals are actually losing money. And so for those listening, I think for the patient experience, for your net satisfaction scores, and honestly, I think people are going to start to do research and understand which hospitals are AI powered. That's the ones that I want to go to because I know I'm going to get the best care, the best experience. And so, not to put anyone on the spot, and I won't name any names or any hospital names. I don't want to get in trouble, but the time is now. The technology is here, and we know at White Glove using Lucidus and some other tools that we have. We're here to help. So, and I'm not trying to pitch right now, Nick, Jason, but the fact is the technology is here, and a lot of these industries, especially the healthcare space, which is so important, needs to jump in. And I think we've been saying, hey, lean in, be innovative, be curious. Healthcare, jump in. The time is up, and we're ready for you to create a better experience for us patients.
Absolutely.
Awesome. All right. Anything you all want to share before we jump off? We have 4 more minutes, and I know there's some exciting things that we want to chat about later this week, but anything that you all kind of want to just get off your chest?
Well, so I think, Nick and I are together today because we're going to go start talking to the future. So we're going to a high school to talk about,
That is
AI
awesome.
careers and what that looks like. And, we spoke about it at the Kellogg event. None of the jobs that I had when I graduated high school, I actually did. Like, no, they weren't even considered jobs. So the future is very bright, and we don't know what those job titles are going to be, but we know that AI is going to open up a lot of opportunities for people. So looking forward to talking
Man,
to
that is
our
cool.
future leaders and giving them some guidance.
Yeah, these kids don't. I mean, this is probably going to be one of the toughest generations to grow up in when it comes to following traditional paths of going to college and getting a job.
Right.
The past has shown that a lot of the times that just doesn't work anymore. I think I was watching Charlie Kirk the other day, and
Nice.
yeah, he said 56%. He was talking to college students as he normally does. He sets up
Right.
his little tent. Whatever your opinion is on him, he put out a very salient um, uh, statistic. He said 56% of you are going to graduate here and not even going to do the job that you spent 4 years in college learning about. Right?
That's why you should party hard and just, forget about it. It's all good. Have a
network,
good
network,
time.
network.
Yeah.
No, but I really think that it's going to be the hardest for certain I wouldn't say classes of people, just certain cultures of people who have a certain mindset and a way of growing up and what value they place in education. But there's also going to be certain economic classes and types of people that are really going to benefit from this because, frankly, we've really democratized intelligence, right? That's what AI
Mm-hmm.
has done.
Mm-hmm.
But you're able, and I'm not sure if it's going to affect it. It may actually empower some demographics to be able to be
Yeah,
more innovative, and
Agreed.
because you don't need a bachelor's degree from a Ivy League school to be able to generate an idea right now. You have an idea, you can use Claude and Claude Code to build out over the weekend an entire business model and running application.
yeah.
Well, let's keep getting Elon's, what are they called, Starlinks out there. So yeah, you're right, Jason. I agree with that. I think accessibility to AI is going to allow more people to improve their education, which we need. We know that domestically too in the U.S. and then worldwide as well. So very excited about that. Huge. I'm a huge fan of upping your education, right? Continued education. By the way, so excited for you all leaving a legacy locally, talking to the kids that are growing up in this space, and they're probably just as confused as we all are as everything's changing. But I think with some clarity on just the opportunities that they will have as they continue to grow and learn. It's going to be awesome. So great job to both of you. I'm jealous. I wish I could come with you.
No, man. We need you up here.
I know. All right. Well, there's a big old storm up there, so I don't know if I want to jump up there. I heard roofs are being ripped off and tornadoes. Dallas is nuts. All right. That's it for today's AI Executive Morning Buzz. Big thanks to Nick James and Jason Hess for joining us and sharing their insights. And as I mentioned earlier, and as we always do, stay curious, stay innovative, and we'll see you every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 7:30 a.m. Central. Have a great day, y'all. Thanks so much.
See you later.